The title of this presentation, the handout, if you in the hall, if you got a copy of my Among Friends article that says Dealing with Bad Times, that could kind of serve as what I'm talking about today, dealing with bad times. I mentioned that I'm kind of a mild prepper. We talked about this in the interactive study. I say I'm a mild prepper because when people look at some of those who are really active preppers, they do a lot of things, and they do a lot more than I would ever do. They do a lot more than I could afford to do. But I believe in prepping, so I called myself a mild prepper. I want to give you I mentioned in the article 5 points about prepping that my reaction to what's happened around us in this last 9 days. Number 1, it says, it has been obvious to me and to my mild prepper friends that our preparing for rough times was not going to save us spiritually. We have a relationship with the Father and the Son, and none of my mild prepper friends believe that their efforts replace a relationship with God. Prepping gets a bad reputation, probably because some people have given it a bad reputation, but you can't judge a whole movement based on individuals. Like, I'm not a green energy guy, but you can't judge the whole green energy on John Kerry. You just can't do that, because John Kerry does not represent maybe what people are trying to do. But so when people, because I run into people when I mention the word prepping, I get this reaction like, "Oh, you don't like God, you don't believe in God." It's like, what do you think? Are you smoking something? All of us who do mild prepping trust God. All of us who do mild prepping, I tell all my friends. I'm not saying all the people. There are many bad examples in the world, but all my friends, they're not putting this in place of God. So I want to make that statement. The second statement I want to make is, although our preparation was beneficial and helpful in this weather event, we found weaknesses to improve. For the last 9 days, we've been able to see how well have we been doing. So we've been able to look at the successes we've had, and we can also see, we didn't count on that. This didn't work here or there. And so we got to analyze our successes and our areas of improvement. So that way a person can be looking for how to improve a situation. Number 3, it says, it was rewarding but tiring to help people during this weather event. It's always rewarding to go in there and help people who are really suffering. Helping them get generators, helping them get water, helping them get food. We ended up we got generators for some people, and we got generators for some people who weren't part of the Church of God. They just were older people who needed generators, so we did our best to come up with generators for them. Some of you helped us distribute those. Some of them gave us some suggestions or helped us pick who they would go to, because you told us about people in need that you knew, because I trust you. If you said someone needed something, I trusted you. But it was fun to help people. It was great to do that. The fourth point, it was heartening to watch family members and neighbors help each other. It was great to see some family members who might even be squabbling sometimes help each other. It's fun to see neighbors work together. That's a wonderful thing. And then number 5, it was beneficial to watch neighbors who don't believe in prepping or even mock prepping kind of change their tune a little bit. And to be honest, some of them had a little humble pie, and you know what? They needed it, to be honest. So I'm glad they had a little humble pie instead of mock. See, some of the people who mocked us for mild prepping were so thankful that we helped them. Like, so you're not just a lunatic. You actually will help me even though I'm not prepared. Yeah, we'll help you even if you're not prepared. We'll do our best to help you anyway, because we only can do so much. Because, like I said, even those of us who were prepared didn't have every contingency covered. And then we learned a little bit. And we talked about that in the interactive study, and there are some true believers. Now, I don't know of anyone in the interactive study who mocked prepping, but I know people in the interactive study who said they're going to do the better job of it. And there are people in this audience here, David and Melanie Eichen, and they're really knowledgeable about these things. And many people are knowledgeable about it, and so we can help you be better prepared for this kind of thing. I can do some research. I've done some research on really small generators Because right now is not the perfect time to buy a generator. You've got to wait about a couple months, the price comes down a little bit. But do your research now. But there's even a small generator that can power up even a small refrigerator. I mean, there's things you can do even if you can't afford or can't get involved with these huge projects. There are things you can do, and some of us who know these things, and there are people who know it better than me for sure, we're more than happy to help talk about them with you, maybe even give you sources of people who aren't jacking up the prices or whatever. But the point is, again, that we're talking about dealing with bad times, and there's things we can do, these logical things we can do. Now, a couple scriptures I want to turn to. I want to go to 1 Kings chapter 19. 1 Kings 19, verses 11 and 12. And when we talk about dealing with bad times, there's all sorts of bad times. Sometimes it can be a family problem, sometimes it can be a health problem, sometimes it can be a weather problem, sometimes it can be a war problem. By the way, right now, there could be a mini coup going on in Russia. Right now, one of the Wagner guys is trying to at least make life difficult for Putin, if not trying to overthrow him. And again, you hear reports like that all the time. This one looks pretty well documented that something's happening, and I'm sure he's going to take it seriously because he doesn't want to be assassinated. He doesn't want to be removed. And so not only there's war between countries, there's going to be conflict within the country. So, of course, we have our own. We're not in the same situation as Russia or Ukraine, but boy, we have a lot of conflict in our country. So there's a lot of conflict stirred up by Satan the devil that we try to watch what's happening. So anyway, 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 11 and 12, talks about when things go badly. Is God involved with these things? How is God involved with these things? Well, the fact that God is the sovereign being of the universe, he's involved in some way. He's either involved with it directly, like the flood, or indirectly because it lets it happen on his watch. It's always his watch, but he lets it happen. So even if he's directly doing it or if he's allowing it, he's involved. But be careful about attributing things to God that we don't know exactly how he's involved. Let me show you what I mean here. 1 Kings 19, verses 11 and 12. This is Elijah when Elijah's having a lot of trouble. He's been threatened by Jezebel, and while he's being threatened, he actually gets so discouraged he wants to die. And this is the man who stood up to the idols of Baal, the prophets of Baal. He stood up strongly over and over and over again, but he gets one threat from this lady, a mean lady, but she's not as bad. Would you rather have a threat from one mean lady or 450 mean guys? This was not, probably in my mind, this was not a bigger trial than what he had, but his defenses were down. His defenses were down, and he reacted to her threat. He wanted to die. So verse 11, 1 Kings 19, he said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord." And before the Lord passed by, and a great strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rocks in pieces. But the Lord was not in the wind. So someone could ask, was the Lord in the wind that caused the damage in East Texas? Maybe, maybe not. He certainly knew about it. But did he actually cause it? He didn't have to be the one to cause it. He knew about it, he allowed it, or he did it. But so again, be careful about what you attribute to God, that you know for sure that God did this or that. He may not have done this or that. Oh, by the way, thank you, Reg. Reg Killingly just texted me. He must be listening in and saw the news. Apparently the Wagner leaders appear to have come to a truce with Putin. So there you go. So there was stuff going on, but they solved it. Probably good for the Wagner people they did solve it, because they probably saved their lives. Because again, that was a big force. Thank you, Reg, for texting that in. Listening to Bible study and watching the news at the same time. Anyway, back to the study. The Lord was not in the wind, but after the wind came an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came the fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. Sometimes he is in the wind. And sometimes he is in the earthquake. And sometimes he is in the fire. But not always. In this case, the fourth example was there was a still small voice. I forget, Pat Robertson, I guess he just died recently, but Pat Robertson made the claim, I think it was down in Haiti. His claim at that time was because there was a huge earthquake that killed a lot of people and caused a lot of damage because their infrastructure was not well done. And he went on the air and said, this earthquake happened because of homosexuality. And I'm thinking, yo, Pat, back off, buddy. You can say what you like or don't like, but don't speak for God like that. I don't think it's wise to speak for God like that. And I hear a lot of people, Church of God people do it all the time. Church of God preachers do it all the time. They'll see an earthquake and they'll automatically tell you how God was involved in it. I'm telling you, my friends, that he may or may not be involved in it directly. It doesn't change that it happened. It doesn't change that it was destructive. It doesn't change that it was, affecting a lot of people. The point is, me, is be careful, don't claim to speak for God. Don't claim to speak for him, So sometimes he is in the wind, and sometimes he is in the earthquake, and sometimes he is in the fire. But sometimes he lets those things happen. I heard a guy, I was driving, I heard one of the local preachers, not local, it was on a local station. It was an interesting discussion he was having. Of course, I listened to like 10-minute snippets between stops, so I never hear a whole sermon they give. But I was listening for about 10 minutes. He made a really interesting point. He said, sometimes when you go in to help somebody, are you really doing them the best favor? Now, he's not saying to avoid people. He's not saying to avoid helping people. But you have to be careful how you try to help somebody. And he was right about this. Because maybe that person's down and out because God's working with them. Maybe God's leading that person to him. And so you jump in and we can jump in and do something, and our heart may be wonderful, but our judgment may be flawed. And maybe God's up there saying, no, let them go through this. No. I'm there for them. I'll be there for them. Your heart is good. God bless your soul. Your heart is good. But they were just learning to come to me. And so I'm not saying we shouldn't help people. I'm just saying don't assume that you're helping people is automatically the best thing or the best way. Try to find ways to help people. But again, some things are just bigger than we can solve. There's Jerry Lynn Thompson's going through a trial here. We talked a little bit, and I'll talk to some of you about it offline. He's going through quite a trial right now. And I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to solve it. That's been part of my stress for the last week. I can't solve this thing. But I have to trust him and say, well, I can't fix this. I'm asking you to fix this. I'm asking you to help us in this. I just know that I love the guy and his heart's good. And I don't know all the details, but I want to be there for him in the best way I can. And just like I'd want to be there for you, just like you'd want to be there for me. But again, sometimes we think, well, this will help. And it's not necessarily the best help. Let me give you an example like with your kids. Now, sometimes parents are deluded by their kids only because they want to help so much they don't use good judgment. That happens to anyone. But sometimes it's like, is this really the best thing for your child? Is this the best thing for your friend? We want to be kind, giving people, but we want to be effective people. So sometimes, I'm just pointing out today, as we went through a trial, a big trial, I don't know of any of our members who have died. I'm sure there were people who did die from the heat, but I don't know of any of our members who did. I knew many of our members, some of you suffered through it, and we tried to help you through it, and you tried to help each other through it. But when you watch people go through it, we want to serve the need the best we can. And I thank God for all the church members who helped us each other out. I thank God for all the local citizens who helped each other out. I want to publicly compliment Blake Silverstein and Seth Forstier, who lived down the Tyler area, who helped us they offered us generators that we directed to some people in the community who needed it. In fact, some of the generators went to church members, and some of the generators went to old people who were not Church of God people, who needed it. And again, God bless Seth and God bless Blake. And they didn't do it for the recognition. They might even be a little disturbed with me that I'm giving them recognition. They didn't ask for it. I'm giving it. But thank you guys for helping us out. And thank all the people who did work together. But the point is, sometimes God works with a still small voice. Let's turn over to Matthew chapter 5, verse 45. Matthew 5, verse 45. This is in the Sermon on the Mount. And this little Sermon on the Mount, it's interesting. he's talking about something, and he makes this comment in passing. He's talking about loving your enemies in verse 43. He's talking about not just loving your enemies, but loving a lot of people. Loving your neighbor, loving your enemy, helping people. Then verse 45, in the midst of talking about loving your enemy and loving people, he says, that you be sons of your Father in heaven. Then describing our Father in heaven, it says, our Father in heaven makes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good. He sends rain on the just and the unjust. Windstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes go on the just and the unjust. So beware of religious people who consider themselves to be prophets, whether they called themselves ordained or whether they just call themselves religious, who then speak for God and say, this happened for this reason. Man, they're taking something on themselves that doesn't belong to them. So I would rather be criticized by them by saying, Dave Haver's not dogmatic enough. Yeah, I'm not dogmatic enough about my own personal opinions as you are about your personal opinions, I could say to them. Because I'm telling you the truth. The truth is the rain falls on the just and the unjust. The sun comes on the evil and the good. So how can I say exactly what the target audience was in East Texas for the last 9 days? Instead of trying to figure out the target audience, we'd rather figure out ways of getting people cooler, getting people water, getting people food, maybe getting place shelter where people can be. That's what you did. That's what you saw a lot of citizens do. That's what you saw family members do. That's what you saw friends do, because it was the right thing to do. So again, I can't explain why God let something happen. The title of this study is Dealing with Bad Times. We've got to deal with it. And in the midst of it, yeah, you can talk about the theories all day long, but we got to get there and actually do the work. Luke chapter 13, verses 2 and 3. Luke 13, verses 2 and 3. Verse 1 says, there were present at that season some who told him about the Galileans whose blood Pilate mingled with their sacrifices. So in Jerusalem, around the temple, there were people who died. As they were giving sacrifices, they ended up losing their blood too. When I've talked about this before, I'll say it again. I like to say it every time I bring this up. You've heard the expression being at the wrong place at the wrong time. The example, I've never been to a strip club, so I'm just saying, I'm using this as an example. If you're at a strip club at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. In fact, you're always at the wrong place if you go to a strip club. Okay? These people were not in the strip club at 3 o'clock in the morning. They were at the temple giving sacrifices. That's being at the right place at the wrong time. So Jesus said, do you suppose that these Galileans were worse sinners than all the other Galileans? The people who died, were they the worst sinners? Were the people who died, were they deserving of it? Were the people who died, or does it prove that they were the bad guys and we're the good guys? That's just a wrong way to look at things. But that's what a lot of people do. The health and wealth gospel teaches it. The name and claim it gospel teaches it. It's the wrong way to look at things. Bad things happen. Yes, many times God has mercy on us and it doesn't happen to us. But if it does happen to us, God can still be having mercy on us to help us through it. I don't want us to be a bunch of snowflakes and whiny babies. When bad things happen to us, we want to move forward and look for solutions, especially with the help of God. Our land is filled with snowflakes and whiny babies. Are bad things happening to people? Yes. Are they being mistreated? Yes. Should the mistreatment stop? Yes. But being a whiny baby is not the solution. My nationality is Slovak. Slovak means slave. Slovak means slave. So even though I have not personally dealt with the effects of discrimination, not yet, I come from a historical group of people who've had a lot of it. I found out, I did not know this. I did not know this till just a week ago. Slovakia, I just looked at a map to see where Slovakia is. It's right next door to Ukraine. So I may have relatives over there who are getting caught up in the mess. My wife did do she did do that. We tried to find Ancestry.com. She had access to someone had Ancestry.com, so she had it. She went through it. She found a lot of things of her, a lot of things on her. She couldn't find much about Havir, not much. We found some, because a lot of my relatives were in communist countries that didn't either keep good records or didn't have access to good records. I mean, Havirs in the world. We looked at Havirs in the world. There were on 3 pages you can find all the Havirs in the world. And her maiden name is Page. In pages, she only looked up pages in Texas, where thousands and thousands and thousands of pages in Texas. So if I can get into my access, I can find out whom. I know I have a relative who's a hockey player for Czechoslovakia. I know I have a professor who works up in Minnesota as a faculty member. And I know some of the, and of course then others are my cousins that I do know. But the point is, all of us have stories to tell. And discrimination is not good. It's not. It's horrible. Slavery is not good. I'm against slavery. But the fact is, I recommend none of us be whiny babies about it. First of all, we put our best effort forward, and then we ask God to help deliver us. And that's what I saw from a lot of you, and that's what I saw from the citizens. We attack a problem. We find generators, we find solutions, we give solutions, we help solutions. That's the kind of people we want to be. And there are a lot of people and you found out, by the way, some of your neighbors were just that way. Some of your neighbors are solution-oriented. Some of your neighbors are kind. You found that out. And then, of course, as we do our part, we trust in God for sure. We trust for that still small voice. So if people I made a joke on the text list. I listed like 4 or 5 people who got their electricity last. And I won't say the names here, but it was a joke. I said, were these 4 people who got their electricity last, were they the biggest sinners in the congregation, or were they the toughest members in the congregation? You could take it either way. You could take it that they got electricity last because they needed it, or because God looked at them and said, they're strong, and I'm with them. I don't know. I don't even care which way. It was just a joke. Were these the people who had electricity first? If a church had electricity first, was it the best church? That's a crazy question. That's what they're asking here. Then it goes on to say in verses 4 and 5, how about those 18 people in whom the tower of Siloam fell? The tower fell and 18 people died and killed them. Were they the worst sinners in Jerusalem? It's a crazy question. But people do that all the time. Oh, well, that happened because they're sinning, and that happened because of this and that. Maybe it didn't, maybe it didn't. The point is, I'm trying to encourage you is we don't want to speak for God. We don't want to talk for God. And we don't want to talk for him and say, well, this is why it happened. We do want to take personal responsibility, and we want to help others. That's what we do. That's what your neighbors did. And anyone who did that successfully did the right thing. And if others didn't do it so successfully, they'll probably have opportunities to do it again. Those opportunities may get worse. Let's see, because of time, the point I'm wanting to make is dealing with bad times. And so I want to end a little early to give us a little time for fellowship since I went the interactive very long. By the way, any publications, I'm going to bring out even last week's publications for the main hall. If you didn't get a copy, I'll make whatever you need. If I didn't make enough of this and enough of that, I'll make them for you. But I'm going to bring last week's out as well as not only last week's, but this week's. And that way you can read the different articles and see the different things. And I hope you enjoy the fellowship today. Enjoy the good food. We'll enjoy our guest speaker. Terry McAdams is going to be giving us a sermon. We'll enjoy good singing. We'll enjoy being together after having a week off. I hope the internet works so you can at least join us on the internet. I wish all of you out there could be with us today for the beautiful wedding tonight, to enjoy a happy moment. And again, if you would pray that the power not go off again, because it would put us in a bind, but we'd find a way to do it. we'd find a way to make it happen, because with God's help and because of our strong determination, we'd make it happen, because that's the kind of people we want to be. So we trust in God, we trust in God's providence, we trust in God's power, we trust in our relationship with God, we trust in God's promises, and because we trust in God, we want to move forward reflecting Him and being nice to other people. Well, Dixon's got a song. I never pick out his songs. Of course, he picks out Bible songs, and I talk from the Bible, so it seems like it works out pretty well. But the song he chose is by Marty Cooper, entitled, "You Can't Be a Beacon If Your Light Don't Shine." And then I'll come back for the closing prayer. Thank you, Dixon. If you bow your heads. Our loving Father in heaven, Father, we come before you, loving the chance to be in your presence, loving the chance to think about you and your way of life, loving the chance to share this day with our friends here in the hall, for the messages, the conversation, the fellowship, the little snacks we have. We look forward to this hall being set up beautifully. We ask your blessing on the wedding tonight, that it go very wonderful, not only for the families involved, but maybe for the other parts of the community of different denominations, maybe even of different churches of God, we might come together and find some good common ground together to honor you, to be happy with brethren, to serve brethren, and just to enjoy a good, solemn, wonderful occasion, a happy occasion as we come together for the wedding. So we ask your dismissal. We ask your blessing on the service and the singing. We ask your blessing on what's going to be happening in the presentation. And we give you thanks for the opportunity to be here together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.